What up, YouTube? Ed coming back with my annual debunking video. So in today's video, I'm going to be giving a lot of my thoughts, opinions, observations on the 2026 National in Chicago, and we'll be debunking it. So started doing these debunking videos in 2024, and it was basically a response to a lot of the online criticism that I saw that was completely unwarranted for the Cleveland National. And since then, I've enjoyed doing these videos because they get a really nice response and a good dialogue going in the comments. And I enjoyed rewatching the previous two videos I did in 2024 and 2025 because some of the things that I said in those particular videos are becoming more and more popular viewpoints and opinions that maybe I was a little ahead of the curve on certain things, and now more and more people seem to be sharing those same viewpoints and opinions. So I always kind of like doing these videos just to see where my headspace was at the time of this national. And let's get into it. Let's talk about the 2026 national. Overall, it was an incredible success. I had an incredible time. It was a great week spent with friends talking about the hobby and observing a lot of the craziness that has gone on and that has kind of transformed this hobby. I often said that the National is a mirror. It's the Super Bowl event, but it's also a mirror to the hobby and kind of to the mentality of the hobby, the culture of the hobby. You see it all at the National, and you see many different types of people who all have different approaches to the hobby and how they view the hobby. You see them all at the National, so it's always fun to see that dynamic of the show. But also, let's just talk about the Donald E. Stevenson Center. So I think it's pretty apparent to anyone, and I said this 2 years ago, and I continue saying it every year, but I truly believe the National has completely outgrown the Donald E. Stevenson Center. It was a great venue for many years. It served its purpose. It was really good, but as the National has continued to grow, and it has grown, and we heard earlier this week, apparently at the dealer meetings, it was announced that the attendance record was broken. So the attendance record from 2024 was broken. We don't have an exact number, but it's estimated that 120 to 130,000 people attended this show. That is insane numbers. That destroys 1991 in Anaheim. So it just gives you a sense of all the people going into the Donald E. Stevenson Center. And even though the staff there has done a commendable job, even though the police there, the Rosemont police, do a very great job with the flow of traffic, the building just does not simply have enough space. There's only a finite amount of space in there, and you have so many bodies. It's just, that's why you had a line all the way down to Lowe's for general admission so many days. There's nowhere to put those people. There's nowhere to line those people up indoors. Thankfully, the weather was great. The weather cooperated, so it wasn't pouring, raining, or it wasn't like a heat wave for those people. But you're seeing there's not enough space in that place. And the parking garage situation, again, was kind of nightmarish. I know a couple guys in our Airbnb left at 6 o'clock. I think it was either Wednesday or Thursday. They got stuck in the parking garage for around 2 hours. That's ridiculous. But that's common. That's a common occurrence, it seems, every year at the Rosemont National, just because there's just too many people. And the traffic around the area was it was really bad. There's camera lights all in that street. So I had so many Lyft drivers, rideshare drivers, just like really angry. They were kind of ranting to me about the camera lights, the traffic, just the whole area being a disaster, an area they wanted to avoid. Two drivers, actually, that picked me up from the convention center said I was their final ride. They were getting out of the area. They didn't want to be in the area. It wasn't worth it to be just stuck in traffic and to deal with the national crowd. And I'm just one person. I don't know what other people's experiences are, other rideshare experiences are, but I think that just goes to show you the scope of the magnitude of the event and how many people are attending this event. And even though the Donald E. Stevenson Center is a great venue, it just can no longer accommodate the needs for the people, which you also see in the trade nights. So Jeremy from our Airbnb, Big Smooth, he went to one of the trade nights. He said it was an absolute dumpster fire. The reason it's a dumpster fire that we were discussing with him, there's not enough space. It's only in a ballroom. The trade nights are one of the main draws of the National for so many people. That is like a marquee event. That's a flagship event for people to attend this. It should be held in a convention hall with plenty of space. I guarantee if you had it in a convention hall, you could even charge people to go in there and people would pay, because that is a marquee event that people that are attending the National want to enjoy and want to experience, but they can't, because of just how limited the space is. And we saw in real time, in my opinion, we saw in real time people adjust to this. So the adjustment was made. The VIP lounge was basically turned into an all-day trade event. And I believe there's always been that element to every National, people taking over the VIP room since 2024. People overtaking the VIP room and basically having a card show within a card show. But you saw more of that this year. It was more, they just completely took over. The VIP lounge was a card show. And I think part of the reason for that is because of how poorly the train nights are and because it's a lack of space. So this way you give people an all-day event. But the caveat being, you have to have a VIP pass to get in there. I saw so many people, probably around 10 to 15 people, get kicked out of the VIP room because they were trying to sneak in. They didn't have a VIP pass, which was why people were selling and flipping VIP passes for exorbitant amount of money. People wanted to get into that room. There was people with showcases that wanted to set up in there. The demand to get into that room was at a fever pitch. Also, people in the general admission line did not want to wait all the way down by Lowe's Hotel to get in. So it was a maelstrom of events, made those VIP passes a very hot commodity. People wanted those VIP passes. And me, on Saturday, I'm walking out of the convention center. I'm just taking my final look, my final look of the convention, just soaking it in. You know, my National's over. I'm getting ready to go to the airport. I'm not even out the door, and someone sees me and says, "Hey, are you selling your VIP pass? Are you leaving?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am leaving, but I like to keep this as a momentum." They offered me $50. I said, "Well, you want it? $100. Boom, instantaneously. I didn't even finish saying $100, and the guy pulled out a $100 bill, gave him my VIP lanyard. That was basically free money. And this was on Saturday at 3:00. So I'm thinking to myself, this guy only has probably an hour and a half left in the VIP room, and then he has Sunday. But that's still the demand. They still want to get in there. They still want that pass. So I told the guys in our Airbnb, and I know Scott has repeated it, I think, on some of his. But I was telling the guys immediately, they're going to raise the price of the VIP passes. They're going to go up $100. Both the Super is going to go up $100, and the regular VIP is going to go up $100, just because the demand for those passes was just ridiculous at this show. And the National's not dumb. They see people on the secondary. I mean, I've watched the videos. I went through the comments. I've seen people. I've heard the rumors that people were selling those things for $2,000 at one point on a Wednesday, and $1,000 later in the week. So that is completely believable, because people wanted access to the things that the VIPs had. So that's completely no. The other thing is the VIP lounge, which I have talked about a little bit, but the VIP lounge, I went up there Friday because I was encouraged by my Airbnb mates. I brought cards with me to sell to help offset the cost of the National, because the National is not cheap. Between airfare, Airbnb, ride shares, food, the whole 9 yards, it's gone up. And I went through my collection, went through a lot of boxes. There were cards that I had that weren't really doing anything for me, but are really popular cards in the hobby. Some Ohtani stuff, some Mickey Mantle stuff. So some of these marquee names that is commanding a lot of attention right now in the hobby. So brought that stuff with me, and I was told, everyone in the Airbnb said, do not take the cards to the buying stations, to the dealers. You're better off just going up in the VIP lounge and seeing what happens. So Wednesday I was at the show mostly the whole day. Thursday walked around. I figured, you know what, Friday might be a good change of pace to just sit up there and see what happens. Now, I had my expectations on what would happen in there, and we hear so many stories of the repackers, of the type of clientele, I guess, that frequents these trade nights, and the entitlement or the bravado that you get in those rooms. And I gotta say, none of that happened in the VIP room. From my experience, insanely respectful and insanely fair. Everyone that walked up to our table, that we had there, the little table that we commandeered, super respectful, super nice, talkative, and a lot of them were people who owned card shops. There was people that were set up. I went around, was looking at different cards, because there was a lot of great cards in there. And there was everything you can think of. There was pre-war. There was vintage. There was modern. A lot of basketball. Non-sports. You name it, that room had it. And the people had their stuff, like, priced right around or below comps. I didn't see anything priced outrageously, except, of course, for the Mantle stuff and for the Jackie stuff. And there was some Christy Mathewson I saw in there. I did tell Rick, but the particular person that had that stuff, I didn't see them there on Saturday when Rick was there. But anyway, I'm getting off track. There was a lot of stuff in there, and people were very respectful and fair. I know some of the guys came up when me and Jeremy were up there, and they were breaking my stones a little bit about me fire sailing everything and not countering the offers that were being given to me. But I had something stickered for $40, they offered $35. I had something stickered for $90, they offered $85. I had 3 things stickered, they just paid the price. So, I mean, like, I'm not going to counter someone over $5, or I'm not going to counter someone, you know, if they're buying something more up on the echelon, $10, because I know, like, when I'm buying cards from a dealer or when I'm buying cards from whoever, I would like that same treatment. So people were very respectful, people were very fair, and it definitely kind of changed my perspective on the type of the atmosphere of the VIP lounge, because I'm like, man, people are, you know, very nice. They're paying. They're looking for inventory. A lot of them, a good amount were repackers, like I said, but also people in there own card shops. We talked to like 3 different people, me and Jeremy, who said that they owned a card shop. We didn't ask what state, but they were from the Midwest. And they were just looking for cards for their show, for their showcases. Another guy was doing a show, he said, in a couple weeks, and he needed cards for his showcase because he got cleaned out on Wednesday and Thursday that he was in there. So it was definitely an interesting experience. And I wind up moving about $2,000 worth of cards, which pretty much everything I bought went, which I was surprised about. I did not really expect what happened to happen. I thought I would be lowballed. I thought, you know, I would have to give out rib racks, hashtag meat on the bone. None of that. I will say, I did hear appreciate you more times than I can count. But segue into something else, talk about the overall hobby. One of the things I heard ad nauseum the entire week was, I'm all in. I'm all in. I must have heard that so many times on the showroom floor, not necessarily in the VIP lounge, but on the showroom floor, hearing I'm all in. I'm all in on Mickey Charles Mantle. I'm all in on Shohei Ohtani. I'm all in on Messi. I'm all in on Jackie. I'm all in on Roberto Clemente. I'm all in on Michael Jordan. I've heard it so many times. And I'm just like, what's going on here? What happened to just like collecting the cards? I understand like everyone approaches the hobby differently, but now we're using gambling parlance to talk about cards. And I heard assets, portfolio. I just heard so many of these non-collector type terms the entire week I was there. And I get it, the hobby's different, things aren't the same. You see the media reports from NBC, ABC, Fox. They have done pieces on newsreels on Fanatics and even the National, and the main piece of those news topics is always the monetary side, the value side, and that seems to be the focus now of the hobby. Because, like I mentioned earlier, the National is a mirror to the current mentality of the hobby, and the current mentality of the hobby is cha-ching, 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 and it's just interesting to me as someone who has been around a long time, but has been in the hobby in what I consider the golden years of collecting, which is like 2005 to like 2015. Like, I challenge anyone to find a better era of collecting than that. I mean, everyone in the space seemed like a collector. Of course, you had people who were speculating and doing other things, as you know, that's always been a part of the hobby, and that's not going anywhere. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it just seems like the overall mentality of the hobby is now cha-ching, 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 which, hey, so be it. I guess that's what it is. And other things at the National. It seems like, people talked about it. Prices are high. Prices in the showcase are ridiculous, but maybe I'm out of step. I thought a lot of things were really overpriced, but the showcases were empty. So, is it overpriced? Or am I just wrong? And I was telling this to the guys in the Airbnb. I'm like, yeah, Brad was, me and Brad specifically were talking about this. Brad was saying, out of all the years he's been to the National, this one in particular, the prices are the most outrageous. And I'm like, Brad, I agree with you, but the showcases are empty. Like, so people are buying up the cards. So we can't necessarily fault the deal. We can't fault the dealers for pricing the cards this way because people are paying the prices, which is like, I guess that's just what it is now. I guess that's just the new normal now. Most dealers on the showroom floor, I thought, didn't want to negotiate too much on their prices. Every card that I bought, the dealers thankfully were willing to negotiate. I was willing to make deals, which is appreciated. I appreciate you. But the stuff that I was looking for, I didn't seem to have a problem with. And dealers were aggressive in also asking if you were selling anything. I think pretty much every dealer interaction that I had on the showroom floor, they were asking me, "Are you selling anything?" And of course, I was saying no, because I got liquidated in the VIP room and by Mike O. So like, no, I wasn't looking to move anything. Also, a lot of people have talked about this. I'll touch on it briefly. The second floor was my favorite part of the National on the showroom floor. The variety that you saw up there was incredible. There was like, you didn't know what table you were going to next. Like, one table had pre-war, one table had non-sports, one table had ultra modern basketball, the other table had Formula F1, the other table had tons of WWE and tons of wrestling cards from every era. Then you would find some like insane mix of Pokemon, vintage, golden era, DeLong's pre-war. So there was a huge plethora of variety up there. The problem is, for the second year in a row, in their infinite wisdom, the National did not know how to space an aisle. which is frustrating because that area, like I said, the quality of the dealers up there are so strong and so good, and it's frustrating to try to take a look at their showcases and you just don't have the space to do so. Part of that was also though because the buy-in stations were packed. Every buy-in station I walked by had to be like 5, 6 deep of people just trying to sell their wares to the dealers. And from my interactions, it seems like most dealers were given like 70 to 80%. But again, I think that's also why the VIP lounge was so busy. But then again, now that I'm thinking about it, if you didn't have a VIP pass, the buying stations were your only solution if you want to move anything. And again, that's just, this is why card shows are popular. This is why I've been saying for years that card shows are not going anywhere. A couple years ago, people were trying to say card shows are dying. Dumbest shit you'll ever hear in your life. Card shows are so ingrained into the social economic ways of the hobby that it is not going anywhere. This is the lifeblood. Card shows are the vessel for how so many people operate in this hobby, because not everyone wants to sell their stuff online. Not everyone wants to pay taxes online on cards that they want to buy. If you're buying a high-end Mickey Mantle, do you want to buy it in person and save on the taxes and the shipping and then having to hold your ass that the card doesn't get stolen in the mail? Or you could do it at a card show. So card shows nowadays just provide such a massive service to people who want to buy cards, collectors, speculators, whatever, how you want to identify yourself in the hobby. It's just such an important vessel for how you want to approach the hobby. And it just provides a great service, which is why you're seeing record numbers. Yes, the hobby's on fire. Yes, the hobby's doing well. But it's because people need these shows. People need to go to these card shows to buy the cards that they want to add into their collection and also move the cards that they don't want in their collection. And it's this marriage. So you're just going to continue, in my opinion, you're just going to continue to see the rise of card shows. Even steadily, marginally, they're going to continue because of the service that they provide. And that's why you're seeing the explosion of a lot of these regional shows. A lot of these regional shows are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's because of the way people conduct themselves and do business in the hobby. They're just too essential and ingrained into how people operate now. So 22 minutes of your viewing pleasure, given some of my thoughts, and I don't even think I touched on everything that I wanted to touch on, but I know people don't want to listen to me for 25 minutes, 30 minutes. What else that I can think of? The Shoeless Joes, the YouTube meetup, that was really, really good. Major props to CIA Auctions, Texas Snowman, and Theo. Wonderful event. Went over smoothly and was a great time. And overall, it was great seeing you guys there. It was great talking, great experiencing the craziness that is the hobby nowadays. And for next year, I do want to take a year off from Chicago. But after every national, I want to go back. I don't want to miss it because it's just such a great week, and it's just a lot of fun spending it with friends and hanging out and just embracing the man. Like, there's so many memories that I'm thinking of from the week. A lot of funny times with Jeremy. We were cracking up the whole week, just talking about a lot of different things. And even though it is very expensive, if you can make it happen, go to the National. It's a fun time. It's great. And if you have card, you can offset the cost. You could probably buy a VIP pass and flip that baby for $1,000 next year. But you know they're definitely raising the price. But that's all I got for you guys. Leave comments down below. I want to hear different perspectives, and I want to hear some of your thoughts on the opinions stated in this video. So that's all I got for you. Have a great one. I'll see you all at the Philly show. Peace.